see. I'm going to do my best here. Because I've always had such trouble knowing where to start when I talk about my own story. Because I feel like so many moments of my life have been influential to my arriving where I am now. I suspect this trouble will only grow as I recognize more and more ways God has been leading me. So, for the purposes of time and for the sake of your seats, I'll stick to the last month and a half. If you had talked to me 8 weeks ago, you would have encountered a loud, happy, bubbly guy who was into hugs and pushing love out on people. From what I'm told lately, I could have been identified as a person of peace. I don't know. I don't know about all that. I just like to see people smile. But all of this joy was coming from my own human capacity and was well on its way towards dissipation. I didn't feel like my life lost direction or that I needed more. I was very content in where I was, and yet Jesus was poking me. Every one of my close friends was either a pastor or someone somehow very active in a church. I always smiled with them, enjoyed their company, but somehow I didn't find much peace in what they believed. I don't know. Maybe it was my overly intellectual side telling me faith is a fantasy, or maybe it was my fear of being truly and overjoyedly, I'm not sure if that's a word, in love, or maybe just simply listening. The point is, I heard the good news time and time and time again, and I just let it pass me by. I truly believe I had made up my mind long before I ever said it out loud. The draw of the world is strong. I kept it inside. An important verse because of this to me is this. Romans 10:9 through 10. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is by believing in your heart that you are made right with God, and by confessing with your mouth that you are saved. And how crazy true that is for me. The last part really sticks out to me. Believing in your heart that you are made right with God, and by confessing with your mouth that you are saved. I can think about something for a really long time, and maybe even believe that it's true, but if I don't say it out loud, it only remains a thought. So that's a little background on me. Now let me tell you about the week of Easter. I work at the Apple Store in Rosedale Center. I sell all kinds of gadgets to all manner of people, and on one particular day, a couple of fellows walk in with an amazingly tricky issue. I won't go into too many details. Suffice to say, I was going to be spending a lot of time with them. But I had no idea how totally true that statement would turn out to be. A lot of really simple moments in life can be the most significant. I think in the future, when I look back on the moment I asked PJ, one of the fellows who came in, the fellow sitting right there, asked him what he did for a living, I'll smile and thank God. I'll remember the way he looked at me when he told me he was a pastor. I laughed out loud, threw up my hands and said, "Of course you are. You're the third one today." Jesus is poking me, you know. PJ laughed and asked me to come to a barbecue at his house on Tuesday. And naturally I said yes. I wasn't sure why at the time. It certainly isn't something I would normally do, but it just seemed right. Thoughts of Jesus filled my head all weekend. It was Easter after all. And when Tuesday came around, I had no idea what I had in store for myself. Just days before I had been thinking about a passage in Scripture from John 11, the raising of Lazarus. The thing that stuck out to me wasn't the raising itself, but rather the reaction of the high priest. They were all there, along with many others, to see this miracle. And instead of falling down on their knees and believing, they plot to kill Jesus. They see something amazing and beautiful, and their reaction is kill it. I remember reading this passage and laughing. How could the high priest be so stupid? Are you kidding me? Like, how do you see something like that and not? And then I stopped laughing. I stopped for just a moment to realize the most important thing that has ever occurred to me. I've been doing that for 25 years. All my life, time and time again, I've seen God work and make beautiful things. But my reaction has been distrust, disbelief, and an overwhelming desire to kill the parts of me that were begging to trust in Jesus. I was in control of my own life. I was in control of my own actions, and I didn't want God or anything else that wanted to be intimate with me anywhere near. I plotted to kill Jesus. I plotted to kill my king, and I did it in my mind time and time again. When I arrived on Tuesday to the barbecue, my heart was ready to hear the news. large fire was built, which was a fitting metaphor. I sat down in the chair next to my new friend Chris, and I said, I think it comes down to believing that Jesus Christ came down to earth, died, and rose again. I believe that. And I want to talk about worship with you. Chris didn't know me. I'd only interacted with him to telephone. Yet he just began to talk, and PJ and I talked. We went back into PJ's house and worshiped with song, and for the first time in my life, I actually felt as though worship was real. It didn't start as a passion, but just a knowledge. I knew something big had happened, but it wasn't until writing this that I knew how big. My heart had finally caught up with my head, and I was set free. My life has changed in so many ways in the last month. Oh, I remember what it was like before I met Jesus. Listen to that small voice in your head. Don't ignore it. Confess what you already know with your mouth, and you will be saved.